y'all. Welcome back to the Industry Standard. It's my mission here to pass on the tactics and strategies of 30 years of professional cooking to you, the next generation of aspiring chefs. I'm here at The Pitch, 426 West Franklin Street in Chapel Hill. They gave the dudes some studio space today. If you hear a chirp out in the background, I think somebody needs to replace the battery in the smoke detector. Today's interview is with Chef Orlando Pagan. Orlando is the chef at Wild Common in Charleston, South Carolina. He and I worked together many years ago at Restaurant Gary Danko in San Francisco. Since then, Orlando went on to be executive chef and win Michelin stars. He was the chef at Aziza, he was the chef at Village Pub and Spruce and Name, and a litany of fantastic places in San Francisco and on the peninsula. We'll talk about that, we'll talk about South Carolina. We've got a lot to cover. He and I have stayed in touch over the years, and I've always had a good time talking to Orlando. Remember, you can find more premium content and free bonus content at the-industrystandard.com. Enjoy today's conversation with Chef Orlando Pagan. Stay humble, stay hungry. Chef Orlando Pagan, welcome to the Industry Standard.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So tell us where you work now, what your title is.
Yeah, so right now I am the executive chef at Cannon Green in Wild Common. Cannon Green is our event space, and then Wild Common is our tasting menu. Everything under one building here in Charleston, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. And what part, set the scene for us, what part of Charleston is it in?
We're in downtown. Yeah, right
Okay.
in the thick of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
we're like a few blocks away from King Street, which is kind of like, the main strip with all the bars and, all the craziness and, college kids, which it's good they stay on that side. So.
Yeah. Right. Well, I thought we'd start off by talking about an organization that, has had its ups and downs, but is near and dear to your hearts. And of course, that's the New York Mets baseball team. So, how do you feel about paying, $750 million for one baseball player?
Hey, it doesn't come out of my paycheck, so let's bring it on. And we're signing Vladdy next year too. So
you think you're gonna get Vlad Jr.?
Oh yeah, we're getting it. Yeah.
All right.
So hey, we have a billionaire owner, so
all right.
If
hopes
we
are high, expectations are high, huh?
You know how much we suffer, so it's time. I mean, it's time. 86 has been a long time since last World Series, so I think 2025. Let's do a three-peat. I think three-peat is I would like
all right. That. Yeah. Y'all are due. Well, for the for the listeners out there in industry land, I want to just tell them a little bit about your resume from the aughts and the teens. And it was just an absolute murderer's row of the Bay Area's best and most beloved restaurants: Spruce, Aziza, Village Pub, Gary Danko, Ame. When you think back on all of those legendary spots, which one did you leave feeling, the most proud of what you and your crew had accomplished?
I think that's a very interesting question, right? Because every restaurant, every organization that you work for, every restaurant group, they all have good and bad things, pros and cons. But I would definitely have to say Gary Danko. And the reason is because I feel, I moved from Miami to San Francisco. I had no knowledge of California cuisine, any of that stuff. I moved from Puerto Rico to Miami just kind of to like do something for myself. And I was a young kid, getting in trouble and kind of things like that. And I always loved cooking, but I didn't know, where to go or how to start basically. And then when I moved to San Francisco, I just, my first job was Gary Danko. And I think it was such an amazing introduction to California cuisine, to that fresh, type of cuisine. And not only that, but it was my first experience at a brigade, like a classic kind of French brigade, when we have, an expediter, we have the stations were like divided, you have like chef de partie, you have your number twos and, externships and a lot of things. And the way that machine run, it was just amazing to be part of that experience. And I think the time in my life that I did it, I was young, I was hungry, I was full of energy, I was angry, which I don't know if you remember, but um,
Yeah.
but I think it was such a big, a unique experience in my life that I will always carry that with me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And for those who are listening who may not remember the Zagat guide, so before Michelin came to America, there was the Zagat guide. I remember it from New York, and I remember when you and I worked together at Gary Danko. Restaurant Gary Danko was number one in the Zagat guide for many years running. And so that used to be a score of 1 to 30. And it was all done by reader vote, by popular vote. It wasn't done by critical vote or anything like that. And Gary Danko himself, he wasn't in the kitchen with us during service. I don't ever remember seeing him go out into the dining room floor. He was off site in his own office, and so
Mhm.
he's a bit of a recluse as a chef. Not on TV, doesn't teach a master class or anything like that, as
Yeah.
far as I can tell. So when you talk to the cooks who work for you now and try and describe the food at Gary Danko, how else do you describe it? Because it was very unique, I thought there.
It was, one of the things that I talked to them about Chef Gary, like you were saying, he was not in the kitchen. He was, he would be in there in the mornings, right? Uh,
Hmm.
but his presence was like always there, not only that, but he had his sous chef like yourself, you were his sous chef, and Colin, may rest in peace, and I feel like you guys did such an amazing job to kind of bring his ideas, not only his ideas, but his how do you say his what he's looking for in a dish, and not only that, like the kind of like the perfectionist, right? Because everything needed to be perfect. It might just be a quenelle, but I remember like working next to you, for example, and my quenelle was not perfect, and it's like, do it again, like let's just do this again in the middle of chaos, because it was chaos, and I always tell people, my young cooks talk about that experience, and I feel like that was a very important part in my life because it molds you. When you're a young cook, it is so important to have the structure, because you're going to carry that for the rest of your career. Not only that, hopefully you will teach that to your young cooks, or not young cooks, but all your cooks, and teach. It's all about teaching, right? It's all about you know teaching down what you learn, and hopefully that's what we're doing now, that we're not the young bucks that we were at one point. Now we're teaching the younger generation into, hey, this is what we've been through, this is how I did it. I think the cool thing now that I think we're more open now than we were in the past, is like I'm more open to suggestions,
Hmm.
from people that they're really young in the industry, that I feel like in the past I would never go to Chef Gary and be like, hey, how about we try this way? I don't want to get
Uh-uh.
chewed. He was a very tall, scary human being too.
Yeah,
So um,
huge. Yeah,
yeah, but I think all those things are very important.
yeah. That
So
was when I think back on it and the way that the leadership structure was, for me coming in as sous chef, it was like jumping on a freight train that was going 80 miles an hour, and I think Colin had already been working there for 5 years, so he knew everything backwards, forwards, and sideways. And so I remember just being surrounded by cooks who were very self-motivated, and you think about Tom and Travis and those guys. I mean,
yes,
they were all about it. They were getting after it, and the systems were really strong, but all the cooks had to be kind of motivated from within, because Colin was not a whip cracking type of sous chef most of the time. I mean, he had his moments, but I think that it was a different management setup, in that we didn't fall back on the discipline or the harshness
yeah,
of anyone above us. Like, everybody was in there, like, ready to go every day.
every day, every day.
Yeah. Well, so Village Pub has always been the restaurant that I felt was the closest analog to what I wanted when we created Hawthorne and Wood in 2019 here in Chapel Hill. And I wanted Hawthorne and Wood to be world class, but approachable food in an upscale, casual, sort of small town setting. So when you and the other leaders at Village Pub discussed your long-term and short-term goals for that restaurant, how did you define or frame them?
Yeah, I feel the restaurant was very unique, because we're part of a big group, right? Bacchus Group. At that time, I think we owned a restaurant, two fine dinings, which was Bruce and the Village Pub. We had our own farm, which was amazing, Um, so going over short-term goals and long-term goals, it was more it was a big discussion because they have five partners. I don't know if this is still five partners. So we have five partners. You had your corporate chef. So we will sit down. um, a lot of the short-term goals for us was more about events, what events we're doing, like wine dinners and getting all that stuff in calendars and kind of blocking dates and things like that. um, a lot of promotion, I did a lot of dinners at people's houses.
Mhm.
That was very important, to get our name out there, which we didn't need it, right? Because the Village Pub was well known in South San Francisco or Woodside.
Mhm.
You know, Long-term goals was always, looking into, food costs, labor costs, menu planning. Which it was really cool is the menu planning with the farmers. So,
Mhm.
once a year, I think it was the end of December or early January, we will meet with the farmers, and we will be like, hey, this is what we want. This is the produce that we want to have, and then we kind of start creating, a menu with it, which is it's really really amazing when you have that opportunity to speak to a farmer, right? And
Mhm.
have somebody like that in your wheelhouse. Right now at Wild Common, my event chef, he's a farmer, so he has a farm in his house. So he grows a lot of the stuff that we use at Wild Common, and we're moving forward with it. And slowly we're building that relationship. He's been here for like 5 years or 4 years. He used to be a cook in Napa as well. So, but basically, yeah, that's how we did our long-term, short-term kind of goals.
Mhm.
We look into labor, food costs, and kind of things like that. You know,
Okay.
Michelin. We always thought about Michelin as well. Like what do we need to keep retain our star, and it was a very intense place too.
So that brings up a really good point, because when I remember when we got a star at Soul Bar, we were surprised, and I think a lot of other people were around there as well. And so there was some internal debate at the hotel, at the restaurant. Oh, we have a Michelin star. Oh, now we need to do all this. And my attitude was, no, no, we got a Michelin star for what we've been doing. So let's just keep what
Exactly.
we've been doing and just refine and refine and refine.
Just refine,
Let's
yeah.
not add caviar, truffles, and foie gras automatically. So did y'all
Yeah.
have that debate as well?
No, we didn't. We did what you were saying. I always strongly believe in consistency. I'm with you. I'm like, if it's not broken, why fix it, right? It's like, but look at your systems, look at what you do, and how can you improve, like, what is lacking, right? Like, we will look into, what is our weaknesses now, including it could be, China, or it could be an employee. Like, we have an employee, like, it's struggling, the way we would did things in there. I carry that, everywhere I go now. It's not about getting rid of somebody because they're not doing a good job. It's, first we look at ourselves, like, am I doing everything to help this person? Am I setting this person to success, for
Mhm.
success, or am I just like, am I part of the problem? Which with a lot of times, a lot of people, anybody can cook. We can all be cooks, but being a chef, it's that's part of it. It's how do you help your team, to be better cooks and better people. And that's basically, I learned all that from working at the Bacchus Group. Because how the industry, back in the day was like, go, you're not good enough. And I like that mentality of, like, that is switching into people, right? Into, because we're people. Your most important assets is your staff. If you don't have staff, then how do you succeed? How do you keep your dojo open?
Yeah. Yeah.
Basically,
No.
that's how we did.
Okay. Well, and I remember, several conversations with you over the years about the cost of living in San Francisco, Oakland Peninsula, everywhere. And I have to imagine Woodside, Palo Alto, San Jose was not a cheap place for your cooks to live. So
No.
what was the talent pool? Because there's some great restaurants down there. So what
Yeah,
was the talent pool like down there?
it was very difficult. We there was a lot of people, a lot of green cooks. We had a lot of like people, like in California from southern, from Latin America,
Hmm.
Mexico, Central America, South America. So we had to teach them, but the good thing was, and these guys were hungry, and ladies that were hungry, they wanted to work, they wanted to learn. So it was very important to teach. That was the main thing, to teach, not only just hand somebody a recipe, let's do it together, how many times it takes. And that's how we start developing our cooks. But yeah, the first few years is tough, right? When you're trying to teach somebody that they don't have the tools, or they don't understand, the kind of food that you want to do, that they're used to do something very simple, or whatever it might be, and they're like, no, this is what we're trying to do. And then how do you share, and have them to understand your goals, your vision, kind of things like that. I feel like that was the kind of the most difficult part of it. But you take your time, and it's people, right? Take your time, treat them with respect, teach them,
Hmm.
and hopefully, they will do well.
So there was I don't remember if it was 6 months or if it might have been 3 years, but I just remember Murad Lalou being just white hot as a chef out there in
Yeah.
terms of popularity and in his cuisine. I mean, tell me, you're gonna have to correct me on this, but I believe it was centered on Moroccan cuisine, so it's a completely different flavor profile and maybe set of
Hmm.
spices that you were used to. So after your time, with him, are there certain things that you took away that have filtered into the cuisine at Wild Common?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I use a lot of Moroccan, Northern African spices in my cooking. And it's very interesting because right now in Wild Common, we're in the South, so we use some Southern ingredients and techniques and stuff like that. And putting those together with some of those Moroccan spices and marinades and things, it go really well together, which I was kind of surprised. At
Mhm.
least in my mind goes well. So I don't know, maybe people don't like it, but I haven't heard anything bad about it. So
Cool.
yeah.
Well, along those same lines, is there like one point of inception that when you first created the food for Wild Common, is there one perspective that you looked at it through, or did you blend together and or take bits and pieces of everything you learned and say, well, now I'm in the South, now I'm in South Carolina, so I'll use these ingredients. How did that work?
Yeah. I mean, so before I came here, I was working for Sean Brock at McCready's Tavern. So I was the
Mhm.
chef there. And I took some of those Southern ingredients and techniques into Wild Common. I don't do a lot of Southern stuff because I feel like I'm not gonna bring justice to a dish. Like I didn't grow up eating Southern food or cooking Southern food, so I rely a lot on my team, or my sous my sous chefs, my chef de cuisine. They're all from here, from the South. But we do incorporate some of those Southern dishes. One of the cool thing about Wild Common, I right before this meeting with you, I was meeting with my chef de cuisine and my sous chef, and we talk about this week's menu, and we sit together. Sometimes the cooks are involved as well, and we talk about what the menu is going to look like. We have one rule only, and it's like we cook things that we want to eat. Nothing on the menu is in the menu because it's cool or because everybody loves salmon, which I
Mhm.
don't like salmon. That's the only thing I don't like. So
We didn't make it. We didn't make enough salmon together at Gary Danko, right?
we made like thousands of salmon at Gary Danko's. I think that I got some PTSD from that. But we only cook things that we want to eat. And we had, I mean, in the menu right now we have a KFC, a Korean fried chicken. It's a chicken wing. We made our own Korean barbecue sauce, and then eventually that evolved into hey, we're in the South, let's make a bourbon Korean barbecue sauce, see how it works, and it worked. And then that's how we create the menu. It's a fun menu. We want to have fun, right? We don't want it to be boring. We don't want it to be like kind of the same thing. If it needs to be fun. We're here cooking it every night, so let's have a good time. And that's basically how the menu evolves here at Wild Common.
And so once y'all have had that meeting and agree, you've put pen to paper on this is what we're going to do next week. What are the mechanics of getting each new dish on the menu from there?
Yeah, so we're closed Monday, Tuesday. So then Tuesdays I'm here, kind of start doing prep, kind of get the little pieces here and there. Like if there's like today I'm bracing some short ribs, so kind of stocks. We have right now one of the snacks that we have is a pho with fermented kimchi or fermented carrots. So right now I get all that stuff going, the pho, the broth and all that stuff. And then I also start writing like the prep list, ingredients. We're a very small team. It's only 4 of us in the restaurant. That's not including the cooks for the event side. So I write the prep list, or me and Paul, he's the CDC. Write the prep list. When they come in tomorrow, we'll sit down. We kind of like talk about the menu. And it's not set in stone, right? Somebody might have an idea tomorrow. It would be like, hey, how about we try this with this? We're like, hey, let's just try it, and then from there, it takes off. Sometimes in the middle of the week, we come across a amazing produce, or Casey, our event chef slash farmer, be like, hey, I just pulled this radishes, let's put them on the menu. Let's do something really fun with it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And so are you writing the recipes as you go throughout the week?
Yeah, we do. A lot of stuff is, recipes that we've done in the past, and we just kind of tweak here and there. A lot of stuff is just like we're writing recipes as we are prepping. Which it could be a little dangerous, right? When you are trying, we talk about consistency, how important it is, and it could be dangerous when you do something like that. But we have a really good team. We all taste everything. We like to everybody have to they taste what we do, and then different kind of palates, different experiences. So I feel it's very important, and it happened in the past. We create something, we're like, oh my god, this is terrible, and then we always have kind of like a fallback kind of thing. We have a plan B always. So
So in culinary school, obviously they teach you, the 4 mother sauces or the 5 mother sauces, depending on what school and what book you're using. And one of the coolest things that always evolved, over the course of 2 or 3 years in any kitchen that I was in, was that kitchen would kind of start to have its own mother sauces, and it might be salsa verde and non-plat table sauce, and it might, it's stuff from all over the globe. And you talked about things that maybe aren't pantry items for y'all, but recipes that reoccur. So do you have a list of a few mother sauces, a few things that y'all use that you fall back on that are always good?
Yeah, we do. Gosh, I wish I can remember right now. My memories. Um, but we do have. I wish Paul was here because he always makes fun of me. He was like, "Oh, here goes the good
You
old."
don't remember that one?
We do. Yeah, we do. We do have. We do this vinaigrette with preserved Mario lemons. It's like a Mario lemon and shallots and herbs, and very simple. That we do a lot with fish, and that's kind of like the plan B, right? The fallbacks.
Right.
We got that. Um, Sabayons. We do a lot of Sabayons. That's kind
Oh,
of
really?
like a plan B. Yeah, we're actually doing a exo. We take exo sauce, and then we mix it with we make brown butter, and then we make that into Sauvignon. That's going to be our fish sauce for tomorrow. But we do have. Oh God, I wish I can remember, but I'm sure Paul he loves making fun of me when every time I bring kind of all stuff like that, like salsa verde. Yeah, we use a lot of salsa verde. That's like something that keeps coming back. Shawanmushi, that's my thing. I love it. But every time I say let's make shawarma, they'll roll my eyes like, oh, here we go with the damn shawarma. Especially my big cook, because he's the one that has to like cook it and kind of keep an eye on it. So yeah, but yeah.
Nice. Well, given unlimited resources, what restaurant would you build and where?
You know, that is such a cool question, because I am very proud of where I come from. You know, I'm Puerto Rican, born and raised. You know, I carry that with me everywhere I go. You know, um, I my dream is to have some kind of like bed and breakfast somewhere on the beach in Puerto Rico,
Mhm.
and have a nice restaurant. You know, if I have to say, remember Willow's Inn in Seattle? I think it's called Willow's Inn,
Uh-uh.
Seattle. Yeah, small. There was in an island, and they had this kind of cool inn, something like that. You know, that we can use local ingredients from Puerto Rico. I mean, the seafood is incredible. There is small farmers that, you know, a lot of farmers, but a lot of small little farms, and kind of use like local stuff, and just like put the name out there, right?
Mhm.
Like I see these little restaurants and places in, you know, in Mexico, Peru, and all those places, and they're doing such amazing food, and kind of like try to do something like that, but be used, you know, like Puerto Rican cuisine, and go back to, you know, our African influence, because we have a huge African influence and Spanish influence, Native Indians, and kind of use some of those techniques and food, and just kind of show it to the world, like what we can do, you know. And that's kind of like one of my dreams. But you know, I keep getting older and running out of energy, so I don't know, man.
Yeah, tell me about it. Well, does it have a name yet?
No, no name yet.
Yeah.
That's, you know, maybe
All
I'll
right.
call you when that happens. If
Okay.
happens, you
Yeah.
know,
Had to
without
ask. Had to ask.
yeah.
Um, what chef did you never have a chance to work for and wish you did?
That is, I moved to Miami 99, and then early 2000s. You know, this is things. This is when you know something is special. I remember walking down the mall in Aventura Mall in in it's like north of Miami. I was
Mhm.
walking by, and I went to Williams Sonoma, and I opened this cookbook, and it was the French Laundry. That cookbook changed my life. Like it's that is one of those unique cookbooks. That one, and what was it called? Alan Ducasse, one of Alan Ducasse cookbooks. I forgot the name.
Mhm.
But those cookbooks was like changed my life forever. So I can't say Chef Thomas Keller or Chef Alan Ducasse, but either or, I always wanted to like work for those chefs. You know, I came very close to knock on French Laundry's door and just be like, Chef, I want to work here. What do I have to do? I actually had a plan with a good friend of mine in Miami. He was a cook with me. We were gonna jump into or rent an RV and drive across the states, and they just like go to French Laundry and be like, I want to work here. What can I do? How can I get myself in here? You know, I'll work for free. We have money saved for like 3 months or something like that to work for
Mhm.
free. But that was a goal. And then, you know, of course things happen. So never, you know, that never happened. But I will say either Chef Thomas Keller or Chef Ducasse.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Last question. Um, what qualities must a cook have to succeed in one of your kitchens?
I would say humility,
Mhm.
uh, you know, and the willingness to be open to criticism. Um, to me, that is very important, right? Be a good person. I can teach you how to cook. I mean, you taught me how to cook. You know, you were one of those people. Like that was pretty hard, I guess. I don't know. You yell at me a couple times, um, but I can teach somebody. I teach my kids how to cook, but I can't
Right.
teach you how to be a good person. You know, I can
Yeah.
teach you how to be driven. I can teach you to be humble. That is like, that's what I'm looking for when I hire somebody. I'm looking for that humility, for that, you know, coming in and be open to, learning and criticism. Right now, one of our cooks, he is this man, I think he was a sous chef at Rubichon Mansion in Vegas, and right now he's a line cook. He has a memoir. He has a lot of experience, and he's like super humble. This man comes in every day, keeps head down. We're the same age, and a lot of times, something I don't like, I'm like, hey, let's try this. Absolutely, yeah, sure. So that's what I'm looking for. I think if you go in as a young cook to any kitchen and just be like humble and open to new ideas or new techniques, hey, you're gonna succeed. But you see, one of the things that you see nowadays is, you have a lot of young cooks that, they come in and they think they know everything, and it's like, no, like you don't know. Just like just keep yourself open to learn more, because I'm still learning. I'm still learning every day. And hopefully, I will just keep learning until the day I die. I don't know. I don't see myself retiring from anytime soon. So
same here. And I had this thought, and obviously I'm not the first one to think this, but athletes, I guess if you're a distance runner, you might peak at 29 or 30, but most athletes peak at a pretty young age. But we're lucky to be in an industry where you can just keep learning and keep getting better and keep getting better. Yeah, it's a physical occupation, but you can just keep getting better as long as you're willing to keep learning.
I feel it's interesting you bring that. I feel that I have become a better cook in my 40s than I was when I had more energy to like do more research and things like that. I feel like now something happened in my brain that I can put flavors and things better in my brain now that, in combinations, things that I did, 10 years ago when I could run around. Now, kind of heading to my late 40s, I feel like I'm a better cook. Like I can put that together. I'm not only that, but I'm more patient about it. I can be more patient about creating a dish and things like that, which when before, just like, this didn't work, scratch it, throw it out, whatever. But now I understand why, it's keep learning. It's number
Absolutely.
one thing. Yeah.
So, Chef, if there are any young cooks who are brimming over with humility who want to come work for you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I will say Instagram. That's nowadays, right? That's what you use for community. That's crazy, right?
Yeah. What's your Instagram handle?
It is opagan78. That is my handle. Opagan, Pagan 78. Shoot me a message, and we'll get you in, do a stash, kind of spend some time with us, have fun, eat some good food, and then we'll take it from there.
Excellent. Chef, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for being on the Industry Standard today. It was great to catch up.
It was my honor. Thank you for having me.
All right. Yes, Chef. See you later.
See you.
Bye. Thanks for listening, Chef. Fun's over for now. Look for more free content and the premium content you need to catalyze your own cooking career at the-industrystandard.com. The music you heard was Elevated Euphony by Dennis Brodowski from FMA CC BY license. I look forward to hollering at you again soon. And as always, stay humble and stay hungry.